In the near future, the mining spaceship Borealis drifts through the vastness of space, its crew in cryogenic sleep with 4 years remaining until their destination. Without warning, an asteroid collides with the ship, triggering alarms. Inside one of the cryopods, Andy is jolted awake by a holographic video of his family back on Earth. The ship's AI announces a hull breach and activates the survival system. Mechanical arms spring to life, assembling a specialized suit around Andy, complete with a limited oxygen supply and its own AI interface. As the emergency protocol kicks in, all the cryopods are ejected from the damaged Borealis. Most pods safely clear the ship, but a few are caught in explosions as fire spreads through the vessel sections. The robotic arms finish constructing Andy's helmet just as his pod's thrusters engage. However, as the pods enter the atmosphere of a nearby planet, the immense gravitational pull causes many to descend at perilous speeds. Some ignite and explode during the descent. Andy's pod deploys its wings, but they begin to fail, and the thrusters give out. The pod crashes into an elevated terrain, skidding across the harsh surface before coming to a halt against a mound of dirt. Andy, barely conscious, sees a fleeting vision of his family before waking to the AI panicking about a potential heart attack. He manages to deactivate the defibrillator just in time. Peering out the window, Andy realizes he's stranded in a barren wasteland. He attempts to use the radio, but there's no response, only silence in an alien, desolate landscape. Suddenly, the pod shifts, and the AI explains they're on unstable terrain, so Andy needs to leave. However, when he tries to open the pod, nothing happens. Checking the survival kit, he discovers there's no flare gun due to his low rank. Kicking the door doesn't work either, so Andy uses the fire extinguisher, finally breaking the glass. As he attempts to climb out, the pod rolls onto its side, throwing him back inside. The broken glass tears his suit, causing him to lose oxygen. Thankfully, he uses a repair spray to quickly seal the tear. At that moment, the engine short-circuits, starting a small fire behind the seat. Andy hurriedly grabs his son's toy and uses dirt to escape the smoke-filled pod. Outside, he notices the Borealis on fire, plummeting from the sky before crashing on the planet and triggering a massive explosion. The shockwave knocks him down, but he quickly recovers and asks the AI for information. He learns the ship only made it halfway through the journey and that is in unmapped territory. Spotting a light in the distance, Andy begins walking toward it while trying to contact others on the radio. After walking for some time, he finds half of the Borealis engulfed in flames and a nearby pod. Checking inside, he retrieves an oxygen tank but is startled when a crew member's body falls out. Upon closer inspection, he realizes the oxygen tank is broken. Andy leaves, not noticing the blood and slashes on the pod's exterior. Minutes later, he comes across a cluster of SOS lights surrounded by strong winds. The setup is the work of Dwayne, who has salvaged equipment and is already considering using the bodies as a food source. Before the crash, Dwayne checked the navigation log and discovered that the company had taken a shortcut through an asteroid belt to save fuel, stranding them in an unknown area. Determined to seek help, he works to send an SOS message to Earth, which will take 8 months to arrive. Even with a fast rescue ship, help won't come for another 2 years. Meanwhile, Andy begins to lose hope, but Dwayne suggests they might find resources to survive in the other half of the Borealis wreckage. As Dwayne steps back, Andy accidentally unplugs the equipment and turns to fix it. At that moment, a mysterious creature appears, seizes Dwayne, and vanishes without a trace. When Andy looks back, he's alone. He completes sending the message and takes Dwayne's gun as the AI warns him about his critically low oxygen levels. Andy asks the AI to plot a route to the largest fragment of the Borealis and begins walking, frequently checking his radio for other survivors. Eventually, he reaches the edge of a cliff, where the AI admits its systems are malfunctioning. Overwhelmed with frustration, Andy screams, thinking of his family, until he hears faint static on the radio. It's another survivor, Naomi. Her signal is weak, and Andy scrambles to improve reception. Naomi, trapped in her pod, reveals that she scanned for crew trackers and discovered that the only survivors are her, Andy, and Dwayne. She shares her location, but the AI warns Andy that her area is unstable and that his oxygen supply might not last the journey. Initially hesitant, Andy is persuaded when Naomi assures him she has enough oxygen for both of them. For the next few hours, Andy walks tirelessly toward her location, maintaining his resolve by chatting with Naomi along the way. Suddenly, Andy hears a strange noise and instinctively asks his AI to scan the area, only to be told the function is offline. When Naomi hears the AI model's name, she confirms it's an outdated system that was supposed to be discontinued, yet another cost-cutting measure by the company at the expense of their crew's safety. By now, night has fallen, and Andy must tread carefully as his helmet light barely illuminates the path ahead. He freezes when he thinks he spots something in the darkness, but dismisses it as his imagination and presses on. Moments later, he notices rocks rolling near his feet. More unsettling noises follow, though he doesn't see the shadow quietly watching him from above. As he continues, Andy stumbles upon strange holes in the ground and decides to investigate. The trail leads to a larger hole covered in cobwebs, making him realize the smaller holes are paw prints. Panic sets in, and he quickens his pace, noticing the webs thickening around him. Soon, snow begins to fall, and the noises grow louder, more like growling. Suddenly, something massive races by, prompting Andy to shut off his helmet light and hide. Naomi's voice crackles through the radio, surprised and alarmed. Her scanner shows several crew trackers moving toward Andy, but none are responding. Confused, Andy orders the AI to link to the trackers. The signals converge around him, just as Naomi warns they're directly in front of him, but he sees nothing. A flare suddenly streaks into the sky, illuminating the area. To Andy's horror, the light reveals a colossal spider lurking nearby. The creature had consumed the crew, and the trackers are inside its stomach. Desperate, Andy tries to use Dwayne's gun, but it's broken. Terrified, he screams and starts to run, but the spider lunges at him. He slips, falling into a deep crack in the ground. Looking up, he sees the monstrous spider reaching in, trying to grab him. A terrified Andy sprints through the crack in the ground, the spider relentlessly pursuing him from above. It repeatedly slashes through openings in the rock, but Andy narrowly dodges each attack. His focus on the spider proves costly when he stumbles off the edge of a cliff. Tumbling painfully down the slope, he lands hard in the snow, which cushions his fall just enough to save him. Above, the spider roars in frustration, but doesn't descend. Shaken, Andy struggles to compose himself. But Naomi's urgent voice cuts through his panic. His oxygen levels are critically low. A quick inspection reveals that the fall tore another hole in his suit. Frantic, Andy seals the tear with his last can of repair spray, just managing to stop the leak. As he catches his breath, Dwayne's voice crackles over the radio, pleading for help. He's fighting off a swarm of spiders and needs backup. Naomi insists Andy should assist him, but Andy hesitates. His scanner isn't reliable, and the thought of confronting those monsters terrifies him. Naomi, however, reminds him that Dwayne has oxygen. With no other choice, Andy sets off, following flares Dwayne has been shooting into the sky. As Andy weaves through the wreckage of scattered pods, just as Dwayne begins explaining the monster's weakness, a spider lunges at him again, cutting off his words. Andy hides, frozen, as he listens helplessly to the sound of Dwayne being overpowered. The radio goes silent. Panicking, Andy bolts to a different pod for safety, only to find another spider there, feeding on bodies. Naomi quickly activates the lights and AI voice in a nearby pod, successfully distracting one of the creatures. Andy seizes the opportunity to sneak into another pod, trembling with fear. Naomi attempts to divert the second spider the same way, but accidentally activates the lights in Andy's pod instead. Andy jumps in terror when he realizes he's not alone. There's a corpse slumped inside with him. Thankfully, she activates all the other pods as well, distracting both spiders so Andy can finally escape. The monsters soon realize they were tricked and begin chasing him, but they freeze when he enters a foggy area. After the spiders leave, Andy tells Naomi she should find a safe spot too, but she can't feel her legs. As she starts to panic, Andy sings a song he used to sing for his son to calm her down. He then continues on and encounters a group of fireflies creating a stunning display with their lights. One lands on his helmet and suddenly turns red to attack him. Though it can't hurt him alone, the other fireflies also turn red and attack together. Running a short distance is enough to escape them, but a growling sound suggests the fireflies were fleeing something else. Suddenly, the ground opens, and a monster's giant mouth emerges, capturing Andy and covering him with a sticky substance to immobilize him. The creature begins swallowing him slowly until his entire body is inside its mouth. Remembering the AI, Andy declares he's having a heart attack. The defibrillator activates, delivering a shock so powerful that the monster spits him out. Now furious, the creature chases Andy, who hides inside what looks like a tree trunk. There's a hole in the ground, and Andy falls into a firefly nest. The small aliens turn red in agitation and begin jabbing at Andy as he scrambles through the tunnel. He manages to escape their reach by bursting out of the narrow space, prompting them to retreat. Once he's outside, the AI informs him that his oxygen supply is just enough to reach the Borealis, but likely insufficient to make it to Naomi. Despite her urging him to head for the ship, Andy refuses to abandon her and continues running in her direction. The air grows heavy with smoke from the flames of the crash, making it increasingly difficult for Andy to breathe. Overwhelmed, he collapses but forces himself to push through, determined to reach Naomi. At last, he finds her trapped inside her pod. Naomi opens the door, allowing Andy to step in and finally breathe properly. Andy tries to free her leg, but his hands aren't strong enough to pull her loose. Luckily, Naomi's emergency kit, designed for higher-ranked personnel, includes advanced tools. Using one of them, Andy carefully frees her leg, causing her some pain, but they're relieved to see it isn't broken. After a brief rest, they gather supplies, a flare gun and repair spray, and prepare to move. The pain in Naomi's leg slows her down, so Andy improvises a splint to support her as they walk. While she examines Dwayne's damaged gun, a horde of spiders begins to surround them. Realizing they're outnumbered, the pair takes off running. Naomi repeatedly asks her suit AI to inject her with medication to numb the pain and keep her moving. The chase leads them to the other half of the Borealis, which appears to be in relatively good condition. The spiders close in. Naomi stumbles and falls, but Andy quickly helps her slide down a slope, allowing them to move faster. As the spiders grow dangerously close, the pair frantically pushes crashed debris into their path, hoping to block their advance. But the debris collapses, and the creatures continue their relentless pursuit. As one of the spiders closes in, Naomi fires a flare, sending the creature chasing after it. She quickly shoots a second flare to distract the rest of the horde, buying them time to dash up the hill and into the Borealis. Inside, Naomi struggles with the control panel while the spiders close the distance. Just as one spider tries to crawl through, she successfully seals the door, crushing the monster in the process. The remaining spiders start pounding on the door as Naomi and Andy begin exploring the wreck. Despite extensive damage, the backup generator is functioning, providing enough light and stabilizing the atmosphere. They find a cargo hold filled with supplies, enough to sustain them until rescue arrives. While investigating further, they notice a trail of blood leading down a corridor. Following it cautiously, they discover the main console covered in gore and thick cobwebs. They quickly hide when a massive spider enters, splitting open its stomach to disgorge human remains, including a helmet. Andy fights the urge to vomit as the grotesque creature finishes its grim task and leaves. Just as the duo tries to move, a hatch in the ceiling suddenly opens, and an even larger spider emerges. Reacting quickly, Andy slams the door shut, trapping them in an airlock. Naomi scolds him, pointing out that now they're stuck with no way to escape. As the larger spider begins pounding on the right door, Andy desperately tries to pry open the left one with a tool, but it's futile. Resigned to their fate, they sit together, awaiting the inevitable. Andy plays a video of his family, confessing to Naomi that they died in a car crash, and he's been carrying survivor's guilt because he was the driver. Naomi, frustrated, reminds him that his actions have kept her alive and that he has nothing to feel guilty for. They hug, bracing for the end, when Naomi notices a strange orb filled with fireflies stuck to Andy's suit. The spider finally breaks through, and Naomi hurls the orb at it. The fireflies swarm the creature, attacking it with a ferocity that forces it to retreat. Seizing the moment, Andy and Naomi press a button on the main panel to open the other door. They sprint toward the cargo bay, only to stop abruptly when they realize they're standing on an elevated platform. The spider shakes off the fireflies and charges after Andy and Naomi, who desperately try to close the door but fail. With no other choice, they leap off the platform to dodge its attack. The spider crashes into the cargo bay with them, recovering almost instantly and resuming its pursuit. Thinking quickly, Andy hurls his spray canister into the creature's mouth. The spider bites down, and the canister explodes, momentarily stunning it and giving the duo a chance to run. The spider, undeterred, climbs onto the ceiling to close the gap faster and leaps to land right behind them. Both Andy and Naomi are knocked down, but Naomi gets to her feet first. She runs to distract the spider, yelling for Andy to find a way to kill it. Andy scans the cargo bay and notices several pods stacked on top of one another. He asks his AI to locate a functional pod, which turns out to be at the very top of the stack. Andy scrambles up the pods as fast. Just as he reaches the top platform, the spider strikes Naomi, knocking her down. Thinking quickly, Andy shuts off the lights in the bay, giving Naomi a chance to hide inside a nearby box. Inside, she finds a set of emergency lights. Meanwhile, Andy prepares to eject the pod to crush the spider, only to discover that the power shutdown prevents him from launching it remotely. He realizes his only option is to eject the pod manually from inside. Climbing in, he connects his AI to the pod systems. Below, Naomi emerges from the box, glowing with the emergency lights, drawing the spider's attention once more. Andy takes one last look at his son's toy, whispering a farewell to his AI. He times the pod ejection perfectly, a vivid memory of the car crash flashing in his mind as the pod hurtles downward. The impact crushes the spider, finally killing it. Naomi rushes to Andy's side, crying as she believes he's dead. Desperately, she begs him to wake up, and after an agonizing moment, Andy stirs, perfectly alive. Relieved, Naomi helps him to his feet. Together, they walk to the window of the Borealis, watching the breathtaking sunrise while holding hands, finally safe. Please like and subscribe for more video like this. Thanks for watching.